retiring seniors and millennials want that. That is fascinating, and that is a shift. Gen Xers in the room, this was not your top priority when you guys went to purchase a home. Was it, Gen Xers? That wasn't, you want a short commute, you want good schools, you want convenient to where you're gonna go out, a walkable community. But being close to friends and family, that wasn't it. So I have short hair, so I have to get a cut like every 4 weeks. Every time I go and get my hair cut, the woman who does my hair, she has 3 adult daughters. One of them just got married, had kids, unfortunately, because then she was out, so that was a problem for my hair. Selfish, I know. But every time that I go in, she wants to buy her daughters homes, all townhouses, all in Northern Virginia, all in the same community. That's what she's saving towards, to move them, 1, out of her house, but 2, so that they can all live close together, all 4 units, and that's what she's really striving for. That's a fascinating change in how families are structured from what we used to see in the past. We used to see they move quite a bit away. We used to see that the tale was, as soon as you go to college, you may return home after a few years in that community, but you may just go to the big city. You may go to where the jobs are, so that's a big shift. And a lot of this comes down to affordability, but it also comes down to the differences in how families are today and how they're structured. You guys can't read this cartoon at all, but I will describe it to you. Essentially, we have an Instagram account at NAR, and they found this cartoon from the 1920s, where multi-generational homes, this is a mother-in-law trying to get rid of a young couple living in her home. Yes, I get it. So I think we're live streaming, but that's cool. We're not going to tag my sister. My sister came to live with me when she was 16 years old from Washington State. I'm from Washington originally. I live in DC now. When she came to live with me, she was annoying. I was annoying. It was not a good situation. But she lived with me for the next 8 years. As she went to college, she graduated from college. She's now 24. She has a good job. I'm very proud of her. She's amazing. So she moved out last November. It's almost been a year. Get excited, guys. Come on, get excited for me. Okay. I remodeled my basement. I put in a sump pump. I painted her bedroom. That's my bedroom where I put a rowing machine and I don't use it, but I put one there. Okay. All right, you guys see the set, okay? She also had a bathroom down there, a laundry room. It's all very nice. Okay. So this last summer, it's August, and she says, "Can I come over to your pool?" And I'm like, "Well, it's Sunday, and I'm kind of like doing a little work, working on my homework here." And she's like, "Yeah, I'll come over later. It's okay. We'll go to the pool. We'll relax." I was like, "Okay." So she comes over, her and her girlfriend, and we get in the pool, and she's like, "I have a proposal for you." And I was like, "And your proposal is what?" And she's like, "Well, I was thinking I could move back in with my girlfriend and my dog. And then we can save and we can buy for a house." And I was like, no, okay. Let me think about that. And 2 days later, I called her back and said no. So this is not a new concept of people wanting to move back in. Now, if she was really saving for a house, I probably would have helped her out, but she's not. She just wants to save money. So this is not a new concept. It's a concept of old. We do see multiple generations living together. And we're reverting back to a lot of these things. We also see single females and them out there purchasing homes. This isn't a new concept necessarily either. We've actually always seen them second only to married couples in the market. But new concepts that we're seeing that were once old were in downtown communities. Now they have smaller condo units where you can actually purchase them. But there's a communal kitchen. That's an old concept. That's something where we used to see that back in the 1890s, that the young ladies used to move to the big city and work. And that's a concept where it really came into affordability. You would have a communal living room, you would have a communal kitchen, but you don't need your individual kitchen. That's an interesting change in what we're seeing. All right, downsizing. People aren't downsizing anymore. That's the gist of it. That's pretty easy and straightforward. Is that for people over the age of 65, we used to see, when we look back in the data about 20 years ago, that they would downsize 500, 600 square feet. That's downsizing. That's a significant amount of square footage. That's actually a small condo in a lot of areas. But today, they're only downsizing 100 to 200 square feet if they are. That's a big shift. And a lot of this is likely due to those families living together, but it's also likely due to, you know what, at Thanksgiving, I want to have all my grandkids here. I want to have all families be able to have a bedroom and be able to come here. They may not be able to do that, but I want to be able to do that if they do. And that's a pretty big difference in what we're seeing. Now, we are seeing downsizing by price. So if you can move to a more affordable area, if you can move to a smaller town, if you can move farther out in the suburbs, then perhaps you'll do that, but we're not seeing a big downsize in that amount of space that's wanted. So multi-generational homes, we've been collecting data on this for a number of years now. We're not seeing the share increase, but we saw some really interesting changes the last couple of years. For younger boomers, 1 in 5 of them are purchasing a multi-generational home. That is a lot of buyers out there purchasing for adult children, purchasing for aging parents, all living within this communal space, and often with children under the age of 18 there too. The other shift that we saw is that Gen Xers are approaching their 50s. And we thought maybe this is just a younger boomer concept. Maybe they are the sandwich generation. We've been talking about that for years, the sandwich generation, taking care of everyone. But what we actually have seen is that among Gen Xers, that share is going up too, who are purchasing multi-generational homes. So it is a shift in mindset of a permanent shift of taking care of each other. The other thing that we're seeing in this year's data is that while the share overall of multi-generational homes hasn't increased, it's stayed the same essentially, it's in low teens. What we are seeing increasing is the amount of people living in that home. So if you're taking care of your aging parents, you also very likely are that breadwinner for that entire family, and you're also willing to let your adult children move back in. You guys are better people than me if you are. And you're letting those children under the age of 18, well, they should probably live there. But they're all living there in that one house. And so all of those financial constraints, or those financial pressures, or the family pressure, they're actually all compounding within those homes. That's a really interesting shift that we saw in the data. We thought it was a data mistake. When we see interesting shifts, we always go back and we're like, is this real? Oh no, it is real. Okay, well that's a big shift. We should talk about that. All right. Okay, people who are better than me, here's this chart. 1 in 5 first-time home buyers move directly from their family member's home into home ownership. 1 in 5. That's a big shift. And that's a high that we've seen. And I will tell you that next year's data released on Monday, it is a new high on this. That trajectory just keeps going up. So we see that people are very willing to let their adult children move back in, get their debt to income ratio in check, pay down their student loan debt, avoid those rental costs, and really save for home ownership. In fact, my sister's girlfriend in the pool said, well, I heard you on the radio, and you said this is a great way for first-time buyers to save for their home. Yeah, it was cheeky. My sister saw that going south real quick. So this is absolutely a way to get into home ownership. It is also very common. We are seeing new highs of financial transfers. So 1/3 of first-time home buyers are actually just receiving down payment transfers from friends and family. So just cash, just straight up, here you go. I don't have that, so she's not getting that either. Just full disclosure there, right there. Okay. What we are seeing too is that every month we've been seeing home prices go up. This is our existing home sales data. This chart is data, they need to update it, so I'll just tell you each one of these numbers increases by 1. So 78 months of price increase year over year, we're actually at 79 months of year-over-year price increases. We've seen inventory go down. Now in some areas, we do see that it's 4.4 months of inventory. In some areas in the country, we're starting to see inventory come back. We're talking about it. It's in the media a lot right now. But what you want to see in a healthy market, a really stable market where buyers and sellers can put a home on the market, and then buyers can come in and see a number of homes and not have to worry about all cash purchases. A healthy market is 6.5 months. We are a long ways off from 6.5. So we are not at that completely stable market yet. So those are some big shifts that we're seeing. Every single month we collect data through our home survey, and it's a random digit dial survey. It's both cell phones and landlines, because no one has landlines anymore. If you do, you're a better person than me. What we are seeing, and this is both renter data and this is owner data, is that we see that more than half the people are saying it's a good time to buy, but it has gone down. Now, when we look at affordability, that's the big thing coming in here. Because owners think, no, now is a good time to buy. And now it's an all-time high. When we collected the data, short time frame, but still an all-time high. Now is a good time to sell. Now those current non-owners, those who are living with someone else or renting, they're the ones where it's pretty much flat. They're not necessarily saying now is a good time to buy. Now, for our owners, they finally have equity in their home. They finally are saying, you know what? I have been crammed into this home that I purchased 8 to 10 years ago, especially if they're a Gen Xer, and they're saying this is now an opportune time for me to make that move. And maybe my job has changed. The school that I really want my kids into, now I can actually put them in there. This might be a really good time to list that home on the market. So that is a shift that we're seeing. That goes right into tenure. When people go to purchase homes today, and I can tell you these numbers are identical for next year, when they go to purchase homes today, they're planning on staying in that home for a very extended period of time. So 10 to 15 years for first-time and repeat buyers. That is a big lifetime. Because when you look at the actual tenure in home, this is among sellers who recently sold their home, we used to see that the tenure in home was 6 to 7 years. You have a life event that really does happen every 6 to 7 years. You have a new baby, you get a divorce, you get married, so on and so on. You get a new job. Something happens in your life that causes you or makes you want to move or grow out of that home, or suddenly that home is too small, it's too big, and so on. Where we are today, that tenure in home has been bouncing around 9 and 10 years, so it's really high. A lot of that's due to people were underwater. They wanted to sell. They had to rent out their home or they had to stay there for a very long period of time, but they didn't necessarily want to. It didn't fit their needs anymore. We also know people did purchase a larger home. They were able to purchase a home that's larger than it was in the past because they're moving to the suburbs, they're moving to small towns. So maybe they were able to skip that starter home. So you do see that increase as well. All right. Shifting gears quite a bit here, down payments. I'm going to give you guys this challenge because this is something that every time I say it, it's just so crazy to me. Because we know it. We work in the industry. We know the numbers, and you guys know when you work with buyers how much they're really putting down. But what we don't know, and what I think is fascinating, is that among non-owners, there's a lot of misinformation out there. 87% of non-owners who are currently renting or living with someone else think they need more than 10% down to purchase a home. Yeah. The typical down payment for your first-time home buyer was just 5% this last year. It was 6% for those 3 years prior. That median has never really touched in that 10% area. We actually know that nearly 40% think they need more than 20% down to purchase a home. That is a lot of misinformation. And that's something that you guys can really talk to those people on who are on the fence about buying and say, I don't know, I think you might be able to get in there. If you have the closing costs, if you have that down payment, you may actually be able to enter homeownership. That misinformation is really out there. Now, what we do know is that saving for a down payment is difficult. We ask recent buyers, successful home buyers, what was the most difficult task in your home buying process? And that has just gone up every single year. Now it's flat among our repeat buyers there, but something else that I think is really fascinating is that when we look historically at where down payments come from, we see that for repeat buyers, they're actually not only bringing that equity from a past home sale, they're bringing savings as well. So we see that it has been difficult in the last few years. They weren't able to, if they really needed to move, if there was that life event that caused them to, they weren't able to tap that equity as much as they had in the past. So for those first-time buyers, that's that blue bar, it has gone up substantially. But for our repeat buyers, it's still quite a struggle too. All right. Yeah. Oh, good. Groans. Okay, great. Cool. Hopefully those are groans and excitement because you can't wait to talk about everyone's favorite problem, student loan debt. All right. So I am working my dissertation. My dissertation is largely on a few of those first charts that my husband calls boring, but it's also really on student loan debt too. It's on the intersection of both. How come the homeownership rate hasn't rebounded? And where does student loan debt fit into this scenario? So it's $1.4 trillion according to the New York Fed now. It's gone up 150% in aggregate debt in the last 10 years. At the same time, incomes have gone up 14%. So It's really hard to pay that student loan debt as a young adult when you have that income that's only gone up 14%, when your student loan debt's gone up 150%. So not the avocado toast, this really comes down to it. Now, those are some headline figures. When we get into the nitty-gritty, it's not just a millennial issue, and it is really an everyone issue, and not just the parents who are dealing with adult children, but it's also the parents who took on student loan debt through PLUS loans. We actually look at, the New York Fed has data, and those who are over the age of 60, their personal student loan debt has gone up over 1,000% in the last decade. Yeah, that's crazy. When I calculated those figures, that was another one where, did I do the math right? But I did. Yeah, those over the age of 60, their student loan debt, their personal dollar amount of student loan debt has gone up over 1,000%. What that really comes down to is many people re-educated themselves after the recession. They went back, they got a new career, their spouse got a new career. They also are taking on PLUS loans for their children. So that's a big shift, but the majority of the debt is actually their own personal debt. That's a big shift that we're seeing. So not just a millennial issue, even though we blame them for everything. All right. Looking back at millennials, we've been doing research on student loan debt at NAR for about 6 years. This really came out of our research committee because we had a member who stood up, Tony Macaluso, and he was in one of our work groups. And if you're coming to annual, I encourage you to come to the research committee because we do a lot of brainstorming. We do roundtable discussions on what are you guys seeing on the street that we're not thinking about that we really should be doing research on, like the Animal House report, like student loan debt, big topics that were before their time, really. And he stood up and he said, my daughter just graduated from college, and she, because everyone's special daughter is smarter than everyone else, she's brilliant, obviously, but she took on student loan debt, and now she can't buy a house, she can't settle down. All of her money is going to her student loan debt. And he said, if my daughter is in this scenario, then how many other clients are we going to be seeing in the next few years who are going to be in this scenario? And he was absolutely right. So we looked at this data and we started adding it to our surveys, and we started gathering as much information as we could. And the other thing that we did is we created a partnership with American Student Assistance. They're an exit and entrance counselor for student loans. And they have this database of people who have student loan debt, but they're currently paying on their student loan debt. That caveat's a big one. And the reason why I say that is because about 2/3 of people are paying, but about 1/3 are not paying on their student loan debt. They're either in school, they're in their grace period, they're in the military, or they're in forbearance or default. So it's big population where their debt to income ratio is really being impacted by this. So looking at millennials who are currently paying on their student loan debt through a survey, we found that, one, their household income is less than what their student loan debt is. So it's going to be really hard to be paying on that on a timely basis, especially when looking at your own rental costs, your health costs, your food costs, and so on. The other thing that we found out from this survey is that 80% of them were not homeowners. And the vast majority of that 80% said student loan debt is the thing that's holding you back from paying and saving for a down payment on a home. This is the big factor, is student loan debt, not any other bill that I have. And they thought that their typical delay would be about 7 years to enter homeownership. And that's a really long period of time. That is a long period of time to have that person be saving and dreaming for that home of their own. So probably has some apprehension when they finally can get there, but a lot of excitement too when they can. The other thing is that we looked at that pool. Who are millennials, have student loan debt, currently paying that 20% pool, and we found that many of them are actually in a scenario where they want to move. They want to have that 7-year move because something happened in my life. I've outgrown my home or something like that. And we found that about 1/4 of them are in a scenario where they can't because of their student loan debt. So they had a time period where they couldn't pay on their student loan debt, or they took too much on and affordability is a problem. So we are seeing that as well. I did focus groups as part of my dissertation work. Went around the country. You guys are so nice to have me speak. And I really took advantage of it last year. I went to 7 different cities. I tried to gather different demographics, different economic situation. So I looked at a small town, Flagler Beach in Florida, and I looked at Birmingham, Alabama, and I compared it to Portland, Oregon, really different populations than everyone, Chicago, Illinois, DC, my hometown where I'm living now. And I wanted to look at what's happening in each one of those areas. In Nashville, I ran into a woman in one of the focus groups, heading into retirement, went back to school during the recession, wanted to be an accountant, certified accountant, has a good job, but she cannot sell her house as she's heading into retirement because of her student loan debt. So it's not just a millennial issue, even though a lot of the research and a lot of talk is on it. It's really an everyone issue. It's something that's really fascinating. But it's also something that's really impacting that inventory situation too. So talking to those people who are on the fence about selling, directing them towards really making sure they're in the right loan product for their student loans, but also making sure that there are ways that maybe they can save that they're not thinking of right now. All right, so going back to the profile of home buyers and sellers, we know that people are entering homeownership with student loan debt. We absolutely do. We've been collecting this this will be the fourth year that we have collected this. And so encouraging those potential people who are on the fence about buying and selling with that debt, because they can do it. Lots of caveats to that statement. Debt to income ratio has to be in check. They can't have damage their credit and so on. Every year that we collect this, we actually see the share of people with student loan debt goes up, and we see that the dollar amount goes up as well. So we are seeing changes in that. All right, Gen Xers, get excited. This is your one slide. Yay! Hopefully I've talked a little bit about all the generations enough where it's not too depressing. I give you guys one slide. But what we know is when we talk about all these generational stripes, that Gen Xers really do get lost in the equation. They absolutely do. They are the smallest generation out there today. They're also highest income, but they're also the most in debt. And it's not just student loans. They do have the highest balance amount of student loan debt, though. But we also see that they have credit card debt and car debt, and they have children under the age of 18. And as we talked about, those kids are expensive. So we do see that is really tacking up to their balance sheets. One of the things that I think is interesting about Gen Xers is that they're the most likely generation to have been underwater before. They're also very likely to have had a distressed sale in the past, and now they're coming back to homeownership from having a foreclosure, having a short sale. When I look at the data on this, I see that they have really long search times to find a home of their own. And it could be they're really taking their time. They really want to find that right home, especially because if they're in that home longer than they were before, like they had been in the past, they really want to make that apt decision, that right decision going in. Maybe a little apprehensive too. All right, I'm going to tell you some good news. The good news is people are using agents at near all-time highs. And this follows next year too. They really are. On the buying side, the top thing that they want from you is to navigate this housing market with a tight inventory, especially for entry-level buyers, and find that right home for them. That's the top thing. But they're really picking someone who has good honesty, a good reputation, has integrity. Those are the top traits that they're looking for. And we have an entire chapter devoted to the relationship with the agent as well on the buying side. The other thing that we know is that on the selling side, here we go, FSBOs are at an all-time low for the last 3 years. We see they're just 8% in the last year, and we're not seeing this really change for next year as well. So on the selling side, we actually see that agent use is at an all-time high. And we are seeing that trajectory follow next year as well. The top 4 things that we hear every year, regardless of how the home selling market and the home buying market is that the top 4 things that sellers want from you are sell within a specific time frame, market that home correctly, price the home competitively, so important and so hard to do right now, and to just find a qualified buyer for that home. Those are the top 4 things, and it doesn't change. Those top 4 things have always been the top 4 things in the last decade. Really no budgets there. All right, I'm going to shift completely. That was all consumer data. Okay, here we are. This is member data. This is you guys. I think this is interesting stuff, so I threw in a few slides here too of what we're seeing. We do a member profile every year. You guys get a lot of surveys from me. When you guys email and you say, I don't want any more surveys, stop sending them to me, send them to me. So don't send those, I get sad. All right. What we do see is there is a lot of new members entering the field right now. So this has always been the thing. We've always seen that there has been a rise in new members. Those who have 2 years or less experience, we've always seen this, right? But now it's actually an unprecedented levels. 29% have 2 years or less experience. It's really fascinating. So when you guys are working with people out there, that is a rise. It's not just you thinking it's a rise, it really is. The other thing that we know from our member profile is that most of you guys actually do this as a full-time job. It's not a part-time job. It typically is when you enter the business and you're brand new and you don't have those contacts and you don't have the referrals. But what we know is that the median, and I know this is laughable to many of you who are working 80-hour weeks and are constantly on your phones, but the median hours a week that you guys say is 40 hours a week that you guys are working. So it is a full-time job. The other thing that I think is really interesting here is that the referrals and the repeat clients, that is the top way that you guys are getting business. And when we look at the years of experience, that just goes up. And that is the majority of how you're getting business is from repeat clients, referrals, people who had a good experience. And when we look at the consumer data, we actually see about 9 in 10 consumers, both on the buying side and the selling side, walk away and say, I had a good experience with you and I would definitely recommend that person again, or at least I have recommended them in the last year, which is interesting as well. All right, you guys' demographics, they are shifting as well. We can dust off old copies and we have scanned some of these in, pretty fascinating. The age of NAR members has really changed. We saw these peaks, close to actually 60 years old as a median. It has dipped down a little bit, it's at 54 right now. Really interesting. We've also seen this really big shift in gender too. So we used to see the majority of NAR members were male, and today we see that 63% are female. That's a big shift in the industry. The other thing that we know is that you guys value homeownership. You guys have much higher homeownership rates. This is your bread and butter. You guys believe it. You guys are buying it and you're owning it. And this is what you guys really feel at the end of the day. We see that homeownership rate is much higher than what we see in the national levels. But the other thing is 39% of you have a second property. You guys have a vacation home or a residential rental that you guys found that is a good profit maker, or you have a commercial property as well. So really interesting there that you guys really are investing in homeownership because you do believe in it, just like our non-owners today. We survey on these 2 data points every single month, and we see that non-owners want to own a home in the future if they don't today, and they believe that homeownership is part of their American dream. So that's where I'm going to end this, with a big old apple pie that now everyone wants for lunch. Those are my scripted remarks. I will say that follow us on social media because I'm just one of the staff members there, but we have a lot of brilliant economists and researchers, social scientists who are putting out these 200-some reports, and the best way to grab them is that these reports, yes, they are long and they are hefty, and I don't want to edit them, but I have to because that's my job. But the cool thing is we put out these infographics and make them in like bite-sized nuggets that you guys can grab the data points and hopefully use them in your business and steal them, use them. So I'm happy to take any questions that you guys have. Okay, you guys can't be silent. Who's the first one who has a question? Who's the first one who disagrees with me? Let's do that. Prep me for my